Okay, my name is Shane Reed, and this is my first time doing a video like this, so you guys please bear with me. I promise I'll get better as the semesters go on. So the two standards that I picked for this assignment, sections 1 through 3, and the rest of the lesson plan following, is first, obtain and combine information to describe the differences between hydrocarbons, with an emphasis on using patterns as a method for identification, nomenclature, and formula writing for hydrocarbons 1 through 10. The second standard is to translate quantitative or technical information expressed in words in a text into visual form, and then vice versa. So I broke that down a little bit, and students will be able to define and name the three types of hydrocarbons when given a drawing or three-dimensional representation of a molecule, and students will also be able to draw structures or make a three-dimensional representation of hydrocarbons when given names of those molecules in words. I chose these objectives because, first of all, these two go hand in hand. You can't be able to describe the differences between alkenes, and alkynes without being able to express words into a visual form or to express that visual form into words. So just completing that second standard is necessary to complete the first standard. So I put those two together for that reason. I chose that first one about the hydrocarbons because it's the first one that lays the foundation for the student's understanding of organic chemistry. It would have been extremely helpful to me as I entered my college chemistry courses, so trying to set them up for success. And then also it's got some really cool tie-ins to everyday life, because you see a lot of organic molecules on nutritional labels, and then of course you'll learn to understand the difference between the octanes that you put into your gas tank when you're driving. So it's got some neat life applications that I think the students will really be able to benefit from, and help them to learn this and really get this down. So for the grouping section here, I went with whole group, pairs, individuals, and then small group as well. The reason I went with these different groupings, whole group instruction is going to give me the best chance to teach these students new information that they've never seen before. It also allows me a really good opportunity to be able to guide them through the practice for the IWU standard format of lecturing up there, and make sure that they have a grasp on how to do what we're doing before I ask them to go ahead and start doing that on their own in individual practice. Using pairs and small groups will allow students to work together to reinforce some of the learning. What I want to use the pairs for is turn and talk, where students have an opportunity to turn towards one another and discuss a question, a deeper thinking question that I'll ask as I go through the lecture, something that will help them to really think about what we're going through and discuss it with their peers to try to reinforce and encourage some deeper thinking. And then the small group will be able to do the same thing a little bit later in the lesson. And then allowing students to practice individual is extremely important in most chemistry lessons, because it's the only way to really reinforce and practice the concepts and start to understand the concepts. And in this case, the only way that you get good at naming hydrocarbons is by seeing a lot of hydrocarbons and being able to practice naming those, or see a lot of names of hydrocarbons and be able to practice drawing those. So the individual practice is extremely important for that particular reason, especially in organic chemistry. The teaching methods that I chose, I'll be using lecture and questioning, cooperative learning, summarize and note-taking, and then I'll of course be assigning a lot of practice and maybe even some homework. So the lecture is going to provide me the best opportunity to teach the new learning, to set the expectations for the learning objectives, and provide those students an opportunity to take the notes for the summarize and note-taking aspect. The questioning is something I really like to do to kind of foster discussion, and also helps me to be able to do formative assessment as we go along through the lesson. So I'm able to question, allow students a minute or two to turn and talk with their table mate, discuss the question, come to a consensus, then bring the whole group back together for a discussion time. That question helps students to really think deeply, helps me to formatively assess, see if I need to reteach, or if they're really tracking and they're really getting what we're going over. Of course, that turn and talk part that I'll use some in the questioning, that falls into that cooperative learning. Gives them an opportunity to reflect on what we've just gone over, brainstorm the answers together for those deeper thinking questions, and to work as a team on those formative assessment checkpoints during the lecture. Students need practice note taking. A lot of times what I've seen students do is try to take down word for word everything that somebody says, and that's something that's not going to cut it when you get to the next level of education, such as a pre-AP or AP class that moves a lot faster, and it certainly isn't going to help them out a lot once they get to college and we've got professors that are using a lot of lecture and a lot of note taking, and the expectation is already going to be there that students know how to do that. So it's important for me to make sure that my students have practice note taking, especially in their general chem course, to get them ready for those next levels of education as they progress through their high school and then college career, or even in the workforce. There's times before I started my teaching career that I was in a training and would be required to take notes, and it's something that I think they need practice in, and it'll help them in the long run. So I got that note taking in there. And then at the end of the lesson, I definitely want my students to try to summarize from their notes what we've gone over for the day, because that summary forces students to analyze and think deeply about what we've covered and try to break that down into just the main points or a 1 or 2 sentence summary statement of what we covered for today. It's something that a lot of adults struggle with, and in fact, in a professional development that I just finished last week, it was almost impossible for a class of AP and pre-AP chemistry teachers to come to a consensus on a summary that was actually correct. So it's something I want my students to practice and be able to get good at. It'll help them once they get out into college or into their workplace, being able to summarize information that they're given. And of course, assigning practice is going to reinforce that learning that we covered, help make that information stick. And like I said, especially in chemistry, the only way to really grasp and master anything in chemistry is practice, practice, practice. So it's something they're going to see a lot of in my class, and this lesson they're going to see that as well. So that is my lesson so far, parts 1, 2, and 3. I look forward to hearing some feedback on it and to completing this lesson plan next week.